Good afternoon, boys and girls. My name is Miss Melissa, and I will be your host for today. This is your teacher, Miss Amy Baker. Today, we will learn all about fairy tales and how to distinguish fantasy from realistic fiction. Are you ready to get started? Let's go, Miss Amy.
Today's lesson is titled Beauty and the Beast Part 2. I cannot wait to see if there is a happy ending. In today's lesson, we will be able to determine the central message, the lesson and the moral of the story. We will describe Beauty's feelings and how they change from the beginning of the story to the end. We will explain the common meaning, the common saying, better late than never, and use it in the appropriate context. Prior to listening to Part 2, we will predict who will return to the castle. Will it be the merchant or will it be one of his daughters? We know that fairy tales are stories that are make-believe or fiction. Sometimes there are members of a royal family in fairy tales, such as a prince or a princess or a king or a queen. Many things can happen in fairy tales that do not happen in real life. In other words, fairy tales are fiction. Raise your hand if you enjoy listening to fairy tales.
I see lots of hands
I
popping up,
do.
Miss Baker.
Can you recall a fairy tale that begins with long, long ago or once upon a time?
I heard someone say Cinderella.
There you go. What kinds of endings do fairy tales usually have? Are they happy or are they sad? Can you name any fairy tales that have magical creatures or magic powers that happen to the characters? Over the next few days, we will share some of our favorites with you, and Beauty and the Beast is one of them. Today, our fairy tale is Part 2 of Beauty and the Beast. This story was first written into a book by a woman from France named Madame Villeneuve. This read aloud is classic fairy tales. Like all fairy tales, it starts with once upon a time. In the beginning, it has royal characters, a magical event or character, and a happy ending. Let's review our KWL chart before we begin. We know that K represents what we know. W is for what we want to know, and L is for what we've learned. Let's begin with what we already know about fairy tales.
We know that fairy tales are make-believe, and we know that fairy tales can have characters such as kings, queens, prince or princesses. And we also know that fairy tales sometimes begin with once upon a time, once long ago.
Now, what do we want to know about the story?
You shared with us yesterday that you want to know if fairy tales are going to teach us a lesson. And will the characters have magical powers?
When we're finished with our story, we will go back and fill in what we have learned. Now, before we begin, as always, we are going to review our vocabulary. I want you to listen carefully when we have the part 2 of the story to see if you hear these words and you recognize them again. Our first word is constant. Say constant.
Constant.
Constant means happening all the time. Use your face or your body to reflect your meaning of constant.
Oh, that one's neat. Look at there.
I see.
Great job. Constant going, rotating. Great job.
In a sentence, the word might be used like this. The constant noise in the lunchroom was too loud. Now, what is our word? Constant.
Constant.
The second word is determined. Say determined. Very
Great
good.
job.
The meaning of determined is a strong feeling to do something. Now use your face or your body to show determined.
Oh, I love those. Those are awesome. Great job. Great job.
In a sentence, it would be used like this. Mariah was determined to learn to ride her bike. The word is determined. Excellent. And finally, our last word is sorrowful. Say sorrowful.
Sorrowful.
Sorrowful means feeling or showing great sadness. Show me sorrowful.
Look at those sorrowful faces.
So sad.
Good job, boys and girls.
In a sentence, the word might be used like this. The students were sorrowful when their favorite teacher moved away. Now, what is our word? That's right, sorrowful. Let's go back over the words one more time with their meaning. Constant means happening all the time. Determined means a strong feeling to do something. And sorrowful means feeling or showing great sadness. Now, the title of this story is Beauty and the Beast Part 2. We'll get to hear the second half of the story and find out everything that happens. Remember, this story was written in a book by a woman from France called Madame Villeneuve. Listen carefully to see if the merchant returns to the castle or one of his daughters return. Make a prediction for what you think might happen at the end of the story. And also remember to look and listen for our new words. Are you ready? I'm so ready, Miss Melissa.
Me too.
Let's begin Beauty and the Beast, Part 2.
In Beauty and the Beast, Part 1, we read about a very wealthy merchant who lived in a faraway country with his 3 daughters. The merchant lost his fortune and was left with nothing. The merchant and his daughters moved from their lavish home to a little cottage in the woods, far away from town. The merchant received word that a ship had been found, and he left for the city to claim his goods. Once he arrived, most of the cargo had been stolen, but he was able to sell what was left. With the money he had made, he bought the older sister a new elegant gown, and the other a diamond necklace. Nothing was left for Beauty. Returning home, the merchant traveled through a blizzard and came upon a large castle where he found food and shelter. He even plucked a rose from the garden for Beauty. According to the Beast, the punishment for plucking the rose is the merchant may send one of his daughters to take his place, or he must return to the castle to serve his punishment. Pay close attention as we continue to read to see what happens. A few days later, the merchant told his daughters what had happened to him in the rose garden at the Beast's castle. He told them how he had plucked the rose and been confronted by the Beast. He explained that he had promised to return to the Beast and accept his punishment. "Do you have to go?" pleaded the girls. He explained that the Beast had said that the only way for him to avoid it would be if one of them was willing to go and live with the Beast. "But I won't allow that," exclaimed the merchant. "I will go," Beauty said quietly. "No, Beauty," said her father. "I am the one who took the rose. I shall go back to the Beast. I would rather go myself for 100 years than to send you." "No, father," said Beauty. "I want to go." Her father tried to change her mind, but Beauty was determined. A few days later, Beauty and her father returned to the castle. When she first saw the beast, Beauty could not help shuddering, but she tried to conceal her fear. "Good evening, old man," said the beast. "Is this your youngest daughter?" "Yes," said the merchant. "This is Beauty." Beauty curtsied before the beast. "Good evening, Beauty," said the beast. "Are you here to take your father's place and live here with me in the castle?" "Yes, I am," said Beauty. The following day, the beast gave Beauty's father a trunk filled with golden coins and sent him on his way. As Beauty watched her father ride away, she held back the tears. "Beauty," said the beast, "fear not. Things are not as bad as they may seem. You have given yourself for your father's sake, and your goodness will be rewarded. Listen to me and heed this advice. Do not be deceived by appearances. Trust your heart, not your eyes." The next day, Beauty explored her new home. The beast had been right. Things were not as bad as she had feared. The palace was actually quite lovely. She found a huge library filled with books she had always wanted to read. She went for a walk in the lovely gardens where songbirds chirped her favorite tunes. When it was time for dinner, Beauty was greeted by a staff of pleasant servants who prepared none other than her favorite meal. Beauty was still startled by the beast's appearance, but the more time that she spent with him, the more she found that he treated her with kindness and courtesy. He pulled out her chair and sat next to her at dinner. He listened to her stories about her family and spoke kindly to her while they dined. The dinner turned out to be less painful than Beauty had imagined. When it was over, it was time to say good night. Though the beast turned to Beauty and asked, "Do you love me, Beauty? Will you marry me?" Beauty did not know what to say. She was afraid that the beast would be upset if she declined. Seeing this, the beast said, "Say yes or no without fear." Trusting his words, Beauty replied, "No, thank you," as gently as she could. "Very well," said the beast. "Good night then." After that, every night was much the same. Beauty dined with the beast, and the beast treated her with great kindness. She even began to enjoy his conversation. Little by little, Beauty got used to the way he looked. Despite his appearance, Beauty found the beast to be polite, and his courtesy and elegant manners put her fears to rest. But when the meal was over and it was time to say good night, the beast always turned to her and asked, "Do you love me, Beauty? Will you marry me?" Although she cared for him more and more with each passing day, Beauty always felt that as hard as it was, the only answer she could give us was no thank you. One night the beast noticed a sorrowful look on Beauty's face. "Beauty," he said, "I cannot bear to see you unhappy. What is the matter?" "Oh," she said, wiping away a tear, "I am just sad because I miss my family." She paused. "Especially my father. He is getting older, and if his health is failing, I worry that he may need me. If only I could see him just to make sure that he is well." "But Beauty," said the beast, "if you leave me, I fear that I will never see you again, and I will be alone forever." "Dear beast," said Beauty softly, "I do not want to leave you. I would be very sad if I could not see you again. But I long to see my father. If you will let me go for 1 month, I promise to come back and stay with you for the rest of my life." "Very well," sighed the Beast, "but remember your promise, and wear this locket as a constant reminder. When you want to come back, simply open the locket and say the words, 'I wish to go back to the Beast.'" When Beauty awoke the next morning, she was in her father's house. Not the old country cottage, but a fine new house in the city that he had bought with the riches the Beast had given him. Her father hugged her and wept for joy when he saw her. Soon Beauty's sister came to visit with her new husbands. They seemed to be happy, but Beauty could tell they were not. One sister had married a very handsome man who was so in love with his own face that he thought of nothing else. The other sister had married a clever man who entertained himself at others' expense. Day by day, Beauty enjoyed being with her father and doing whatever she could to help him. When the time came for her to return to the Beast, she found that she could not bring herself to say goodbye to her father. Every day she told herself, "Today I will go back," but every night she put it off again. Then one night, she dreamed that she was wandering in the garden around the Beast's castle, when suddenly she heard painful groans. She followed the sounds and discovered the Beast lying on the ground, and it seemed he was hurting. Beauty awoke with a start. "Oh, how could I do this to my poor Beast?" she cried. "It does not matter that he is not handsome. Why have I been refusing to marry him? I would be happier with him than with someone like my sisters have married. The Beast is honest and good, and that matters more than anything else." She opened the locket hanging around her neck and said firmly, "I wish to go back to the Beast." In an instant, she found herself at the palace. But where was the Beast? Beauty ran through the rooms of the castle, calling for the Beast. There was no answer. Then she remembered her dream. She ran to the garden, and there she found the Beast stretched out on the ground. Beauty cried, "Oh no, She couldn't bring herself to finish the sentence. "It is all my fault." She fell to the ground and took him in her arms. The Beast lay still as Beauty's tears fell upon his face. Then he slowly opened his eyes. "Oh, Beast," Beauty sobbed, "how you frightened me. Thank goodness you're still alive. I never knew how much I loved you until now, when I feared it was too late." In a faint voice, the Beast said, "Beauty, I was dying because I thought you had forgotten your promise. But you have come back. Can you really love such a dreadful creature as I am?" "Yes," said Beauty, "I do love you." Then once again the Beast asked, "Beauty, will you marry me?" "Yes," she answered. "Yes, Beast, I will marry you." Before she finished speaking, a flash of light beamed around her. Beauty gasped. She covered her eyes to shield them from the bright light. When she opened her eyes again, she no longer saw the Beast, but there, lying at her feet, was a handsome prince. "What has happened to my Beast?" she asked the stranger, noticing that there was something familiar about his eyes. "I was the Beast," said the prince. "A fairy put a spell on me and changed me into a beast until someone would agree to marry me. You are the only one who is good enough to see past my appearance and into my heart." Beauty gave the young prince her hand to help him to his feet, and they walked side by side into the castle. They were married, and the very next day, Beauty's whole family came to celebrate, and they lived happily ever after. The end.
Boys and girls, let's take a moment to think about the story that we just read and heard. It was a great story, Miss Melissa. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I need you to answer in a complete sentence and try and use the question in your response. First, were your predictions correct about whether one of the merchant's daughters would go in place of their father?
I see their heads shaking.
Yes.
Great job.
Who went to live with the Beast in his castle?
I heard Beauty.
Beauty,
Correct.
the youngest daughter, went. Was it as bad as Beauty expected to live in the castle with the Beast?
That is correct. I see head shaking. Great job, boys and girls. It was not as bad as she thought.
Not at all.
She saw lots of things. She found a library and she enjoyed reading the books. Great job, y'all.
Why do you think, if the palace was so wonderful and the Beast was so kind, that Beauty was still sorrowful?
Great job. I heard someone say because she missed her dad.
She missed her dad and her family. Who is the royal character? Remember, royal means a king or a queen or a prince or a princess. That's right. It was the Beast, but we didn't find out he was a prince until the very end of the story. The Beast was very kind to Beauty because he loved her very much. And he granted her wish to go visit her father. Why do you think the Beast was sorrowful?
Great job. He was sorrowful, I heard them say, because he didn't think Beauty would come back to him and that he would have to live alone forever.
And finally, how does Beauty break the spell on the Beast?
Awesome. Great job. They said she was going to marry. She agreed to marry the prince. Great job.
If you remember from the beginning of the story, the Beast told Beauty not to judge by outward appearances. So Beauty looked at his heart. Now we're going to do an activity called Miss Baker. Think, pair, share. And you're going to find a partner, someone that's at your house, your mom or dad or brother or sister, even a neighbor. I'm going to ask you a question. Think about it for a moment and then share your answer with your partner. What was the lesson that you learned in this story? Think. Now share. Miss Melissa?
I heard the old saying, I heard one of the kids say, I was shocked, don't judge a book by its cover. We don't always look at the outward appearance of someone. We need to look at their heart, the inside.
And how they treat others. Let's do a little word work. Our word is fortune. Say fortune. The merchant had good fortune when his ship was found.
Change to constant.
Let's say the word constant. In the example, I will read something that is constant. When I read, if it is constant or happening all the time, you will put thumbs up. If I say a sentence that describes not being constant, thumbs down. Ready? Here we go. My friend would not stop laughing.
Awesome. Look at the thumbs going up. Great job, boys and girls.
The second one. The lights were flickering on and off before the storm.
I see thumbs down. Awesome. Great job.
My stomach would not stop hurting.
I see a lot of thumbs up. Great. Correct answer.
And the bus kept stopping and going.
Correct. That is not constant. Good job, boys and girls, today.
Before we leave, let's go back to our KWL chart and fill in the last column for what we learned.
We learned today that there really is a lesson to learn in a fairy tale. We also learned that some of the characters have magical powers. We would like to thank you, boys and girls, for joining us today. All rights and credits from this lesson belong to Core Knowledge Learning. We would like to thank them for publicly sharing these materials.
Share what you learned today. Tell someone at home everything you learned about fairy tales and especially about Beauty and the Beast. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again real soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.